with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, welcome to the Paranormal Portal. Wow, it's been a hell of a day. Let me tell you, had a busy day. Don and I hit the road early this morning and headed over to Spokane, Washington, which is about an hour and 40 minutes away driving. And we hung out over at the Bigfoot Today studios over in Spokane and got a chance to kick back and relax with none other than Mr. Ken Gerrard. And if you're not familiar with Ken Gerrard, he is an absolutely phenomenal talent. He's a cryptozoologist. He's been studying cryptozoology since literally the guy was 15 years old. He had these incredible parents that would move all over, and they would participate all over the world, and Ken would busy himself studying this stuff and has made it his life's calling. He's been on several TV shows and such, and just a marvelous guy. Just a chance to meet him and talk with him was absolutely brilliant. And Don and I had a great time with Stephen Majors, and we, it was just one of those bucket list items. But as if that wasn't enough, then we had a special guest stop in over there and hang out as well. And it was none other than Russ Accord of Expedition Bigfoot. He stopped in and we hung out with him as well. Really, really exceptionally cool people, really nice people, had a great time, and just hung out and laughed. A lot of laughs, a lot of stories, a lot of just interesting viewpoints on things. It was a lot of fun. So you'll have to check out that episode when it airs on Bigfoot Today. If you look over on the Paranormal Portal Radio Facebook page, you'll see a link that I posted there that shows the Facebook homepage for Bigfoot Today. And so get over there and check it out. Check out the episodes. Some great interviews have already happened. Russell Accord was already a guest on that show previously, but he happened to be in the neighborhood and swung by. So it was really cool. And just Don and I both had a great day. And I want to take a moment to promote a little bit here. Ken Gerrard is not only a cryptozoologist, not only been on TV, was a co-host of his own show called Missing Alaska, I think is what it was. Just a wonderful guy, but he's also a published author, and he's published several books, but this is his latest. It's The Essential Guide to the Loch Ness Monster and Other Aquatic Cryptids. And he's also written The Essential Guide to Bigfoot, and of which I have 2 copies that were signed to me. Really cool that I picked up today as well. And so it was a great opportunity to meet Ken, to talk with him one-on-one, just to, pick his brain about some things. And it was an exceptional day. So we had a good time. And just got back not too long ago. And it's kind of one of those things, you hit the ground running and get back to work and get ready for our own show. So here I am, folks. I'm kind of dragging my butt, but I'm gonna give you all I've got, because this is the highlight of my days anyways, doing the shows, other than being a dad, being a family man and all that. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, I do love being here with you guys. So we got a lot of things to get through tonight and to cover. We're going to dive into the Skinwalker phenomenon a little bit more and some other incredible paranormal phenomenon. But before we go much further, I think I should point out in hour number 2, the phones will be open. So the second hour of the show tonight, the phones will be open. If you want to call in and be a part of the show, you want to share something paranormal of your very own, please feel free to do so. The number for the portal is 720-923-0500. Again, 720-923-0500. And call in, become a part of it. Love you too. Happy girl. Great to see you guys. All you guys in the chat on YouTube. Great to see you. All of you on TFR. Great to see you in there. It's great to see you. Great to see everybody. Great to be seen by you guys as well. So without further ado, I guess first thing we should do is get to the news. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Paranormal Portal News Desk. And I've got some Paranormal Portal news for you guys, because that's what I do. Nothing truly off the charts, weird or odd, other than, the normal paranormal stuff, of course. I've got a couple of good articles here, a few good articles to go through. The first one I thought was pretty interesting because what are the odds? I guess the first thing you have to say is, what are the odds? Well, I guess it's, bound to happen sooner or later. It's one of those things that with enough time and chance, anything's possible. Well, this is people reported by BBC News, which is from BBC.com, a fireball, a driveway, and a priceless meteorite. And there it is. Apparently their driveway was hit by a meteorite. Wow. If it's got a hit, that's a good place for it, I guess. It says we're still pinching ourselves, to believe this actually happened to our drive. Rob Wilcox, and let me blow up the micro font here. Jeez. I tell you, I need some readers. I'm getting old. Rob Wilcox and his wife, Catherine, and daughter, Hannah, are astounded to find themselves in the center of a major scientific discovery. It was their property in Wincombe, Gloucestershire, I guess, that was hit by the most valuable space rock ever to fall on the UK. The meteorite has had British scientists in raptures of joy. It's a carbonaceous chondrite, a dark stony material that retains unaltered chemistry from the formation of our solar system 4.6 billion years ago, and as such could give us fresh insights on how the planet came into being. The first thing the Wilcox family knew about it was when they heard a dull thud outside their house on the night of Saturday, 28th of February. Whichcombe meteorite is the first UK find in 30 years. Well, I'm sure they're still hidden, but this is the first one people actually found. Meteorites, let's see. When I heard it drop, I stood up, looked out the window to see what was there, recalled Hannah, because it was so dark I couldn't see anything. It was only the next morning when we went out and we saw it on the drive, a bit like a kind of a splatter. And in all honesty, my original thought was, has someone been driving around the Cotswold lobbing lumps of coal into people's gardens? She told the BBC News. Well, either that or someone had upturned a barbecue tray, chimed in Catherine. Scientists knew the fragments of the meteorite must be in the Gloucestershire area. Their cameras had recorded the rock coming through the atmosphere that Sunday night, creating a huge fireball in the process. Oh, okay. So there's actually what the rock looks like. Okay. I'll put this link over on the TFR so you guys can see as well. There is a picture of the rock, so maybe you'll be interested. I don't know. I'm just saying, better safe than sorry. So it's in the TFR chat if you want to check it out. Imagery from multiple angles allowed researchers to narrow the drop zone, and when they went on the media to make an appeal on Monday, they hoped that one or two people might come forward with an interesting find. In fact, they were inundated with pictures. Most had nothing to do with meteorites, but when Open University's planetary scientist Richard Greenwald looked at the Wilcox photos or picture, he was blown away. It's one of those moments when your legs start going wobbly. I saw this thing and it was like a splat across the Wilcox Drive, and it had all these rays coming off of it. Just thought, that is a meteorite. It was instantaneous, he said. And I guess with all the hullabaloo, it was bound to follow up the discovery. Rob's initial reaction was to try to stay out of the limelight, just to be anonymous. But when he thought it through a little more, Rob said the three of them recognized they should talk about what happened to them. We've been wrestling with the question of whether we should talk about it, and in the end we decided we should. there seems to be a lot of genuine public interest in the find. And we're absolutely thrilled that something that's going to be so valuable to science, to the human understanding of the world and the solar system has happened, and that we can be a small part of it. So that's enough of it. I just think it's very bizarre because, oftentimes these things, there's been plenty of cases, I guess, where people's roofs get hit by them, or they go through the roof and into the living room. So if you got to have a meteorite splat, that's a pretty good place for it, right in your driveway. Doesn't even look like it punched a hole in the asphalt, or well, I assume that's asphalt, but anyway, that's kind of cool. So they're dropping, folks. And the thing about the meteorites is if you find one, they can be worth tons of money. That's like literally like finding gold. I know a lot of people go out there with magnets and stuff trying to find the iron-rich meteorites that fall. But yeah, it's anybody's guess. It could be anywhere. But there you have it. That's article number 1 for tonight on our show. Article number 2, this I found interesting, and I don't know what this means. I don't know how much we're even going to read of it, but I was like, what the hell is this? I have never heard such a thing. But we're going to hear it together tonight. And this is an article from, let me close. Oh, come on. Okay, let me close the extra stuff here. This is from the New York Times. And it says the moon tail beam. I don't know. Let's see what it says. The moon has a comet-like tail. Every month it shoots a beam around the Earth. It seems almost like a magical thing, said one of the astronomers involved in studying the lunar phenomena. That's very interesting, because if it's giving off a tail, is it losing mass then as it's going? I don't understand what that means. Huh. And there's another, let me put a link over to this in the TFR as well. Again, not really paranormal, but it is unusual. And so we can talk about it here, but there's the article that I'm going through again from NewYorkTimes.com. Carl Sagan once said the Earth is but a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam. He probably would be thrilled to know that around the time of the new moon, Earth is a speck of dust suspended in a moontail. The moon, lacking an atmosphere to shield it, is constantly under attack. When meteorites bombard its volcanic surface, sodium atoms fly high into orbit. The sun's photons collide with the sodium atoms, effectively pushing them away from the sun and creating a tail-like structure flowing downstream from the moon. It makes the moon sort of like a comet. Okay. Well, I guess if they're just... is that where some of the high salt content comes from? I'm just trying to cut down on my salt. So don't go outside on a new moon, folks. You might be getting extra sodium. I don't know. It's not really paranormal. There's not much for us in this article, but interesting nonetheless. And I find this stuff very interesting because as we understand the universe, as we understand what's going on around us, we will be better capable of understanding what's going on within our microcosm, if you will. So I think that's interesting stuff. Let me see. I know I have more. Hold on. All right. Now this one's kind of gross, folks. And I've heard of this before. And I've seen footage of this before. And many of you out there probably have as well. This is a phenomenon that happens in Australia, I think about every 10 years, to some degree, but it sounds like this is a worse year than normal. And this is coming from unexplained-mysteries.com. Rural Australia hit by biblical plague of mice. It says rural farms and towns in New South Wales have been dealing with the worst plague of mice in decades. If you happen to be one of the millions of people around the world who suffers from an irrational fear of mice, it might be best giving a visit to Australia a miss for the time being. Well, not only the fact that good luck getting in there, good luck traveling anywhere internationally right now. A bumper grain harvest has left residents in and around the town of Gilgandra, and other nearby areas fearing for their livelihoods as countless thousands of rodents have descended on the region. Oh, yeah. I've seen those videos too, folks, and it's not pretty. I mean, there are people like lifting up pieces of sheet metal in their fields. They lift it up, and hundreds, if not thousands of mice are just suddenly shooting all over the place. And they get so ravenous and destructive that they'll kill everything around them because they're just constantly eating and gnawing on stuff. And like they'll kill They'll kill animals that usually prey on them. It's just really crazy, whatever it is. This is videos of local news have been demonstrating the scale of the infestation, with the ground literally crawling with so many mice that it would seem impossible to count how many are there. In addition to devastating food stocks and fouling storerooms, the rodents also represent a danger to humans, especially young children, due to their tendency to bite. Several people have already been hospitalized, while shops, supermarkets have been forced to store all their food in sealed containers to stop the animals getting access to them. You can imagine that every time you open a cupboard, every time you go to your pantry, there are mice present, said rodent expert Steve Henry. And they're eating into your food containers. They're fouling your clean linen in your linen cupboard. They're running across your bed at night. As things stand, there's nothing much you can be done but to wait and hope that colder weather, or alternatively a torrential downpour, will put a stop to the infestation once and for all. This is horrible stuff. I don't want to show the video because we unfortunately won't be able to show it to the people on TFR. But it's horrendous. I'll put links in both chats if you guys want to check this out. But it is literally, oh, shoot. That's not what I wanted. No, that's not what I wanted at all. I gotta redo this. Derp. Let's do this now. Sorry. I recopied the wrong link. But it is something I guess you should probably see once in your lifetime, if nothing else, because it is absolutely disturbing to see that many mice in one location. Conversely, there does seem to be population spikes that happen with different species. I remember living in Michigan in periods of my life, and they would have flea infestations every once in a while. And this is down in an area called Lapeer, just out of Flint. And it was like these fleas were everywhere. And for some reason, those damn things love me. I am sweeter than hell or something, because, man, I had itchy sores all over my legs all the time. And it's worse than a mosquito bite. Well, flea bites are way worse than mosquito bites. And, man, they chewed the hell out of me. And you have to do things like put brewer's yeast around your bed, just so they don't come and attack you at night. Those horrible little bastards, whatever they are. But it's just disturbing. But those kind of plagues, if you will, do tend to take off every once in a while. And I remember them saying in Michigan, it's kind of on a 10-year cycle. Every 10 years, the flea population just booms. And people are constantly grooming their pets, finding these fleas and giving them flea baths and stuff, try to keep them, free of the fleas as much as possible. But, yeah, for some reason, nature just rebounds like that really hard. And maybe that's part of the balance of things. I don't know. Whatever the case is. Disturbing stuff. All right, so that's, I did paste that, right? Yeah, Australia. Okay. You're welcome, Yahweh. Yahweh's in the TFR chat. Good to see you. Thank you for being here. Bam's in there. Lots of people in the TFR chat. Good to see all you guys. I hope you'll check those out if you find those kind of things interesting, but there's more. But wait, there's more. The next one is coming. Now, on our last news segment, we talked about 42 new chemicals that have been identified in human bodies. And many of these, some of these you've already heard of many times over. And those are things like glyphosate from Roundup being found in nursing mothers' breast tissues and in the nursing mother's milk, in placentas. These chemicals are leaching everywhere. Well, apparently there's 42 chemicals that are not normally found in people now that they are tracking in populations. And they seem to just spread of their own accord. And glyphosate, of course, is a big one. And that, again, is the key ingredient to Roundup, which is nasty, nasty stuff. If you got weeds to kill, don't use Roundup. Jeez, don't do it. That stuff will end up in the water. It'll end up in the food. It'll end up in the things people eat. That stuff is just terrible. But this is another article having to do with some weird new stuff, just in time for the tail end of our existing pandemic. Let's be more afraid, because now microbes unknown to science are found on the ISS. There you go, folks. There's a whole new batch of microbes to be nervous about. Be afraid. Be very afraid. Scientists have discovered 3 strains of bacteria on the orbiting outpost that have never been seen before. While the idea of finding unidentified organisms on a space station might sound like a plot of a science fiction horror movie, these particular specimens are thankfully nothing to worry about. Oh, thank God. I was pretty sure they were going to be, oh no, you got to worry about this now. They were first identified by researchers from the United States and India in samples collected from various locations throughout the International Space Station over the last few years. 4 strains were found in total, and all of them belonging to a family of bacteria found in soil and water. These, however, which were found in the station's overhead panels, dining room, and cupola, what's a cupola module? I don't know what that is, but that's where they found them, had never been seen before and were entirely new to science. The 4th is known as methylorobrum rhodesiarium. I'm just guessing that that's how you say it. Was found in one of the station's HEPA filters. That's why you got HEPA filters. That's because it's supposed to stop this stuff. So good to hear they're working. While the presence of these bacteria aboard or the orbiting outpost might seem surprising, it's worth remembering that the astronauts have been carrying out plant growth experiments for years. The whole genome sequence assembly of these 3 ISS strains reported will enable the comparative genomic characterization of ISS isolates with Earth counterparts in future studies. The study author wrote, I just don't even know what I just read. This will further aid in the identification of genetic determinants that might potentially be responsible for promoting plant growth under microgravity conditions and contribute to the development of self-sustainable plant crops for long-term space missions in the future. Well, there you go. It might be a good thing. Hopefully it is, because that's all kinds of disturbing. Hey, there's new microbes. Woo! Yeah, it is the final frontier, folks. I think I got one more. No, I don't. Is that it? That is it, folks. That's the news. Hope you enjoyed this presentation of the Paranormal Portal news. And let's get back to our regularly scheduled program. All right, folks, we are back at it. And I hope you're having a good time. No. I don't know what you're seeing, Mom. Mom asked me if she's seen the butler to the right of me, but there's nobody to the right of me. There's no statue or anything. I don't know what you're seeing, Mom. My mom's always avidly watching the program, which is awesome. But no, there's nobody over here. No statue, just decorations on the walls and stuff. But there's no butler here, Mom. But I'm glad you think he looks great. He does look great. He's in the other room. And what she's talking about, ladies and gentlemen, is I found this this old fiberglass statue, and it's about 6 feet tall. And it was used at a restaurant, and it's a fiberglass butler. And it's a very, very much a caricature style, like a cartoonish kind of style. But he was all shattered and fiberglass and stuff. And so they were throwing it out. And I was like, I think I can fix that. And so taught myself how to fiberglass and repaired this old statue and got him all ready to go. He's ready to paint now. He has been for about a year, but the point is that, I fixed him, and it's been a really cool thing. Yeah, no, that's not what you're seeing. Mama, I'm not sure what you're seeing. But he does look fantastic for the record, but he looks very white because he's all just primer right now. I'm not sure what you're seeing here in the studio, but no, if you're seeing a figure over here, it's not supposed to be there. There's the chair over there. Maybe you're seeing the chair. Is that what you're seeing? That's the chair. That's where Don usually sits. But other than that, I don't know. Nope. No butler statue here. But anyway, sorry, a little editorialization, but I don't know. It's very weird. There's always weirdness here on the portal, though, folks, because that's what we do. We're down to about the 2-minute mark. We're going to go to our first break. For those of you that are new to the show, just understand that we are also broadcasting not only on YouTube, but we're broadcasting on tfrlive.com, which is also simulcasting on iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and TalkStream Live, respectively, on the Truth Frequency radio programs. Now, since we're on the networks, we got to take half-hour breaks. Friday and Saturdays always have to take half-hour breaks. So For those of you on YouTube, you won't hear the commercials that the rest of the listeners will hear. You'll hear these songs that I wrote and performed, and some video segments I threw together to keep you entertained during the time that we have these breaks. So just so you know, it's not because I didn't have enough to do or didn't have enough to fill the time. But, thank you, Yahweh. Good to see you. Thanks for stopping in. But anyway, we're going to go to the first break in just about 30 seconds here. So just so you understand the nature of the show, if those of you are new out there, you're not sure what you're seeing, this is the Paranormal Portal. And on Friday, Saturdays, we are simulcasting on several networks, not just on YouTube. We're on all these other networks as well, and therefore we have to adhere to a break schedule. So that's the reason for the breaks. Now I'm really curious what my mom is seeing. It's like, wait a minute. There's oftentimes weirdness in the portal here. That's oh no. Mom says, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. That's fine. It's just very strange. I'm a little concerned if there's something lingering alongside of me here. But anyway, let's get to it. In just a second here, we're going to go to the break. So stick around. We'll be right back with more of the Paranormal Portal. When we come back, we're going to start the Skinwalker stories. We're going to get through the rest of those. Then I got a couple other amazing articles we're going to start cracking into. So lots to go, folks. So don't go away. Still amazing night of shows here on TFR. So stick around. There's more to come. Boom. Hey, everybody. Made it through the first break of the night. I tell you, we were just cooking it through. All medium rare up in here. It's the way you should cook. All right, so I got some stories here for you. I think I'll start from this one. I'm not sure if I read it last night or not. No, I did read this one. Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay, so we just got a little bit of the Skinwalkers left to go. So, full disclosure, these are kind of creepy stories. Most people have been reacting pretty solidly to them, going, "Ooh, I don't like the Skinwalkers." And honestly, if you want to hear the rest of the stories, check out the last 2 episodes. Both the Night Terrors last night, we covered a bunch more, and the Wednesday show with Dawn was here. Some great stories, but and again, it's hard to know what's absolutely factual and what could be embellishments or absolute fabrications. It's hard to know. I don't know the people that wrote these stories. I don't know, whether they're just trying to tell a story that really happened to them or if they're looking for some attention. It's hard to know. So, full disclosure, you can't ever take things with absolute gospel that you have, you can't verify the sources. Unfortunately, the internet is far too duplicitous and full of shenanigans to take it too much as gospel. But maybe in the stories, and I've always said on the show, it's hard to know what's real and what's not, especially in the paranormal. But consider this. I've been doing this show for 5 years now. 5 years. On YouTube alone, we have almost 950 episodes. If only 1% of all of the stories that I've covered on this show, if only 1% of the stories that I've covered, and I'd say that's a fair, you can pretty safely say that at least 1% of the stories I've covered are factual. If only 1% is factual, then something really freaking amazing is going on, and freaky stuff is going on. I mean, that's no small thing, because essentially these phenomena equate to a function of physical science that we don't understand. And I'm not going to say that it's, that it's all, wooey and creepy. I mean, there's something going on. These phenomena are representing, at least from our traditional physics thinking, an absolute breakdown of physics as we understand it. So it's demonstrating that this reality that we live in is much more robust and alive and flexible and fluid and dynamic than we could have ever possibly believed. And maybe that's the reason we experience the paranormal, because we can learn from it. And I know that sounds out there. It's hard to believe that when you're, clenching your butt cheeks because something just terrified the hell out of you. But consider that. Now, I can tell you without any hesitation at all that any story of my own that I've shared with you is absolutely 100% gospel truth. I would put it on the lives of my children that those are true stories. I have nothing to gain by lying. I have nothing to gain by fabricating. I've never wanted the show to be popular at the expense of its integrity. Like, that's just never going to be okay with me. So everything that I've brought to the show personally, I can verify to you is absolutely for sure true. So at least there's a handful of stories that I can sit and vouch to you. So the same thing for these stories. I can't vouch for them, but if only 1 or 2 of them is true, that's incredibly terrifying stuff. So let's get into them. Now this article that I'm getting these from is from a website called justforspooks.com. And I like this site. It's a new one to me. I haven't known it for very long, but I'm here to tell you they've done a good job, archiving these stories from wherever it is they archived them from. And I don't know. I assume it's probably Reddits and stuff that they've farmed them out of, but fantastic collaboration of stories. So this is number 16 out of 19 that we're going to be going through here. And there's no pictures, so those of you on TFR, there's not much to see, but me reading. If you want to watch me read, then head over to youtube.com/paranormal portal, where the simulcast is going on right now. But this is in July of 2004 near Gallup, New Mexico. I had my first and only encounter with a skinwalker. Before this, I used to say, I'll believe it when I see it. Well, I'm a believer now. What I saw was not full human nor full animal. I was moving and had just completed the cleaning and was with my 10-year-old son. We'd called it a night and we're heading to our new place. And as we walked out the front door, I saw a figure move from behind the neighbor's car to a nearby tree that stood between our apartments. It didn't have red glowing eyes, snarling teeth, or a rotten smell, but it did move quickly, but not quick enough to avoid the light from a nearby light post and the porch lights. It didn't look at me or come towards me. It moved as if trying to avoid being seen. I was within 15 feet of it, but I did not look back to fully inspect it, and what I saw, or I did not look back to fully inspect it, but what I saw was a wolf-like animal that sort of resembled the beast in Beauty and the Beast, just not cartoonish. It had red-brown fur that completely covered it, or it had brown fur, rather. I don't know where I came up with the red. Completely covered it, and it wasn't a pelt. It was a very large wolf, but it didn't have any human traits, except that it walked on its hind legs. It cowered behind the tree as we got into our vehicle. When we got in, I asked my son, "Did you see that?" Well, thankfully, he hadn't. My brother-in-law insists that it wasn't a skinwalker because I would have never seen it. To this day, I can picture what it looked like, know they exist, and pray I never encounter one again. I don't think that's a fair assessment to say, well, it wasn't a skinwalker because if it was, you would never seen it. That's not true. I think that they choose to be seen. I mean, they seem to go out of their way to be seen. We covered a story where one was chasing a school bus at like 80 miles an hour, chasing a school bus, going out of its way to be seen. Other ones where they're chasing cars, running right alongside of the cars, freaking the people out in the cars. There seems to be something, maybe they enjoy the terror. If they are truly a malevolent entity of some sort, maybe they enjoy instilling that fear, that's power to them. I don't know, but I don't think her brother-in-law was right. Number 17 on this list. The one that stands out the most comes from a close friend. Take it for what it's worth. This didn't happen to me, but a very close friend of mine. I've heard a lot about coyotes and skinwalkers, and I've had experience with coyotes. Creepiest was waking up in my sleeping bag, being surrounded by paw prints without ever hearing them during the night, but never anything paranormal, so to speak. Patrick's story, however, kept me from going back to a favorite backcountry secret stash. Hold on. He was leaving the area one morning, had been camping there a couple of days, and said there was a coyote that always seemed to be close by, like in his peripheral vision, but never overt. He loaded up his truck and started to drive down the wash out to the fire road, and at the end of the wash, he could see the coyote following him. But when he pulled up onto the road, it was running next to him. Now he was freaked out, so he sped up. He said he was going 35 or so, and it was running alongside of him. Definitely not possible. Well, I don't know. I think they could go about 35 miles an hour. But anyway, when he looked back, the coyote was running on two legs and was wearing what Patrick said looked like buckskin pants. An instant later, it was a person wearing a coyote fur, keeping pace with his truck. When he looked again, it was gone. He never went back to that grove after that. Just too freaky. Wow. Here's a question I have, though, because there's many traditions in First Nations that speak of transformation. There's many elders who are said, or medicine people who are said to be able to transform. So in a case like this, could this be an elder or medicine man who's not necessarily malevolent, just keeping an eye on something? I'd like to talk to somebody from the First Nations to know more about this before I speak out of turn, but because I really am not an expert on any of this as far as the First Nations lore and legend and such, but I do believe I've heard many stories through the years of medicine people transforming into bucks, into deer, into birds, eagles, etc., and even into wolves and coyotes. So I don't know that just by virtue of something possibly transforming between human and animal would qualify it to be a skinwalker, so to speak, but maybe it does. I don't know. I again, this is me talking from a state of not being fully informed. So I'm just throwing it out there. But I'd love to know more. I really would. All right, so number 18. I was spending a month with my cousins at my grandmother's house. It was August, and my cousins' ages ranged from 10 to 15. And I was the oldest, being 15. I was staying with a 10, 13, and 14-year-old, and we stayed up telling scary stories often. But one night, a few weeks in, we decided to make a campfire out back. My grandma's house is in a rural suburb. The neighbors aren't too far when you're driving down the road to her house, but in the backyard, it's thick forest with man-made paths through it. Each house is on a hill, so only part of the basement is actually underground. That isn't important until later, though. I remember this story. This one's a creepy one. I've read it before on the show, but it was from a different source. So we're walking towards the east side of her yard in a smallish patch of open land. You couldn't see the neighboring yards from there. And there was probably 3/4 of a mile to each side of us that belonged to my grandmother. It was maybe 11 at night, and we were playing Truth or Dare after telling scary stories, and my 14-year-old cousin dared me and the 13-year-old to go walk through the paths for 10 minutes or so. Well, I said yes right away, as I wasn't easily scared and rather level-headed, but my younger cousin was a bit more hesitant. We didn't bring a flashlight because it wasn't pitch dark yet, and we could see enough to not die. We were walking through the paths for about 5 minutes and could barely see the fire through the trees when we decided to turn. In the middle of the path was a large dog-like creature hunched over with its front hands an inch from the ground. What I remember most was how the eyes were so bright white, and it was humanoid dog-shaped with a human-like head, but a dog-like body, but hands and feet. It looked right at us, and I know I was paralyzed with fear as it dashed away the opposite way from us, towards a creek that ran through the yard. Eventually, my cousin and I screamed bloody murder, and the other cousins and my grandmother ran to us. I don't remember much here because I was really disoriented and I couldn't think properly, but I did wake up in bed, so I assumed that I was brought up to the house. All the kids slept in the basement in a big room with sliding glass doors to the outside, as the room was on the side that wasn't underground. My bed was pressed against a big glass window, and I could see my cousins playing outside down below. The house is in Michigan, so it gets slightly chilly even in the end of August. And there was a slight breeze, so I put on a jacket and ran to join them outside, skipping breakfast, not wanting to miss out on anything fun. When I got down, I could tell they weren't playing, but rather running to get my grandmother. Her dogs, both of them, were dead, ripped up. That night we went to bed early. I woke up at maybe 2 a.m. because I felt something hit my head. My cousins were all sitting on the double bed opposite me on the other side of the room. There was 1 bunk bed and 2 double beds. The double beds for me and my 14-year-old cousin. They were being quite quiet and staring at me. The 13-year-old nodded his head towards the window, and I froze. They all looked afraid. I turned my head slightly to the side, and I saw a really messed up looking face pressed up to the window with gaping eyes, looking down at me. I screamed so loud and it bolted. My grandmother called the police and I told her what had happened, and they found nothing. I went home after that, and I have never been there during the night again. That's really creepy. I guess in retrospect, it definitely targeted the dogs, but it could have targeted the children, but didn't. Unless it's a game of fear, unless it's a game of suspense. If it's like a twisted psychology going on there. But, kids would put up a lot less resistance than, let's say, a full-grown dog. And still, it chose not to do that. So that in and of itself is a very good thing. But, man, that is creepy, creepy stuff. This last one is pretty long. So let's see what we got left. 9 minutes. Yeah, we should be able to get this in. This is the last story in the Skinwalkers, so let's get into this. About a month ago, I hiked to a place called Dismal Creek in Transylvania County through North Carolina, known as the Land of Waterfalls. The county is just running wild with creeks and tributaries. Very beautiful, but it's always had a mysterious feel. I always felt curious while visiting in the area. Dismal Creek was different, though. A man by the name of Jim Bob Tinsley wrote a book called Land of Waterfalls about southwestern North Carolina and described Dismal Creek as the most foreboding place in the southern Appalachians. Keep in mind that I only learned this after my visit, and had I known of Tinsley's apprehension, I would likely have never visited. The hike itself is ridiculously demanding. Grades over 50% make up the majority of the hike, and that's not an exaggeration. There are 4 waterfalls on the way up to the creek. The first 2 feel very sublime, safe, but there's something channeling through. About the time you hit the 3rd falls, called Grotto, the feeling of dread starts to become very prominent. But a sense of beckoning drew me onward, a very difficult feeling to describe. I got to a split in the path, and because the area is so unforgiving, my map was inconclusive. I could hear the falls down the mountainside, but felt I needed to go up and over via the right path. I left a cairn for myself and determined a way back and headed up to the rugged jumble of earth that was the ridgeline. I just started the intense scramble when I got the sense that I was being watched. I turned to look behind me and thought I saw someone disappear into the rhododendron and mountain laurels surrounding the trail. I only saw the back of what appeared to be a cloak. There was no sound. It didn't make sense. The leaf litter gives away even the smallest of insects. I should have heard something. I attributed this to a combination of dehydration and sheer exhaustion. I've seen shadow people in the woods before due to that, so I really didn't put much stock into it. But I couldn't shake that feeling of dread, though. I continued the climb, step after grueling step, and after cresting over the ridge, I was in Dismal Holler. I found myself looking down a nearly 70-degree angle with a rope anchored to a tree. I semi-rappelled down to a second rope and finally to the bottom. Then came a wet rock scramble to the base of the falls. The falls were breathtaking. A 200-foot gentle cascade with a 40-foot sheer drop at the top. Incredible. I sat down to chew on some mountain mint. When I glanced at the top of the falls, I nearly fell off the log and into the creek. There was a woman up there. She was pretty far away, but appeared to be old and wearing a cloak of some sort. Gray, tightly curled hair. That's all I could see from my vantage. She was facing me for a few seconds before turning and walking off of view. I immediately got up and started scrambling up the mossy-soaked rock cascade towards the top of the falls. I got there after a very treacherous scramble, only to find nothing. Hands on my knees and taking labored breaths, I heard a voice from the bottom of the falls. "Hey, It said in a strange spectral voice. It sounded hollow. I turned to look, and there she was, disappearing into the rhododendron once again. I was in total and absolute disbelief. I felt sick to my stomach. I carefully picked my way down to the base again and started the trail out. I just felt I should not be there. Like I'd seen something I shouldn't have. I'm a long-time bushman and not afraid to say that I'm tough as nails, but I wanted to run out of that holler crying. I finally made it to the top using the ropes for help. As soon as I crested the ridge, my nose started bleeding. Only a few drops. I kept moving and was essentially running down the mountainside. I got to the bottom and followed the path indicated by the cairn. I kept running and came around a blind curve, and I nearly ran into her at full speed. In trying to stop, I took a hard tumble, and when I opened my eyes, she was standing over me. She looked very Scottish. The curly hair and fair skin. She didn't look particularly gruesome or hag-like. She was very old, but it was obvious that in her youth she had been beautiful. Her eyes, though. The eyes were very alive and full of vitality. Very youthful, and the irises were so light blue, they were almost white. Though her form appeared benign, I had a distinct feeling that she did not mean me well, and that she didn't want me there. I wanted to crawl away from where I had fallen, but I was backed up against a rock. I edged along it until I regained my feet and backed away from her. Her expressionless gaze never left me. I ran until I was well off of that mountain. When I stopped running, I was on a more well-established trail. When I had come in the area, I felt fine, but now I could feel the dread still. All was silent as I hiked out, not a single animal sound. I was almost out when suddenly a bobcat appeared on the trail ahead of me, seemingly from nowhere. I stopped and looked at it as it looked at me. It had her eyes. I knew they were her eyes. I told her I wouldn't be back, and told her that her mountain was beautiful. And then I left as she disappeared into the rhododendron thicket. Wow. I don't know. This is thanks for the contributors on Reddit. Wow, that's very beautiful. The last story is interesting. It's rather poetic. I don't know. It could be true. I mean, just because something has a rhythm to it or has a feel to it doesn't mean it can't be true. It just speaks to the skill of the person writing it, I guess. But could there be mystical beings like that? I don't know. Is that a Skinwalker? I don't know. It could be, but could just be a transformative thing. Could be a spiritual thing completely. But then again, so could Skinwalkers. We're under the impression that they are some form of living physical being that can transform, but maybe they're kind of both. Maybe they're trans-dimensional. Maybe they never were of this world. Who knows? But it's very, very curious stuff. I'll tell you this, though, folks. We're about to go to the hour break. The night has just been flying by. It's been just a day. And a good day at that. I mean, I never mean to complain. I love today. It was a lot of fun. Again, I want to take a moment and say, take a look at the Medellin Falls Bigfoot Festival. You can do a search for it on Facebook, but it'll be happening June 19th and 20th in Medellin Falls, Washington State. If you're in the neighborhood, or if you can get to the neighborhood, Bob Gimlin will be there. Ken Gerrard will be there. Adam Davies will be emceeing, and more people are getting signed up all the time. There's more familiar faces, let me say. And so while the speaking engagements are sold out, there's going to be a huge tent set up outside where all of the speakers are going to be out there mingling with the people that are there. And there's going to be lots of activities going on, folks, in the community. That whole town is going to be basically set aside for this festival the movie theater is going to be showing free movies, Bigfoot movies, documentaries that have been submitted for it. So, and that's going to be happening all day long. So I hope you guys will make this journey, because it's literally going to be an amazing opportunity to meet some incredibly talented and dedicated people. And, it's just going to, Don and I will be there too. So I don't know if we're necessarily a draw, but we're going to be there, and you can certainly hang out with us too. So it'd be great to meet you if you happen to be in the neck of the woods. So look it up, Medellin Falls Bigfoot Festival, June of this year. So we'll be right back, folks, going to the hour break. Don't go away. More of the Portal to come.
Play their games. Everybody loves to place their bets. They don't understand the price I paid. They don't care to comprehend. Trace their lines upon my body, ripping scars across my heart. Raging anger pours inside me as their lies keep falling apart. With my silence, I am not a stupid boy. No more breaking me with kindness, just you dance upon my joy. Leading me with empty promise, you're just another fucking mess. Taking off the slice of my sanity, just make sure that you're well fed.
Caroline is not like those she's with. They're attracted to the one thing about her that's different from themselves. Her life force is very strong. It gives off its own illumination. It is a light that implies life and memory of love and home and earthly pleasures. Something they desperately desire, but can't have anymore. Right now, she's the closest thing to that.
Poltergeists are usually associated with an individual. Hauntings seem to be connected with an area. A house, usually.
Poltergeist disturbances are of fairly short duration, perhaps a couple of months. Hauntings can go on for years.
They most certainly can. Hauntings can go on for years. That's what I understand. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The music is so loud, I can't even hear. Welcome back, everybody. You're too tall for the scene. What? Is this better? No, I'm good. I'm just sitting up. I'm sitting up straight, trying to help my back out. Good posture. I think it's important. All right, so we are welcome back. I'm welcoming you guys back, rather. I hope you feel welcomed back. Welcome back to the show. The second hour is now underway here on the Paranormal Portal. As such, the phones are live. The phones are live. If you want to call in and be a part of the discussion tonight, feel free. 720-923-0500 is the numbers for fun right here on the Paranormal Portal. I'll be watching. If you call in, I'll answer, probably. As soon as I see it anyway. Sometimes that's quicker than others, but at any rate, I'll get to it as quickly as I can. Just want to take a moment and say, if you are listening on TFR, TuneIn, TalkStream Live, and iHeart, stick around after the show because Paisley Wild's coming up next. I don't know what she's doing tonight, but I can assure you, whatever it is, it'll be good information because that's what she covers, that good information. Yeah, she does a great job. She's a dear friend, of course, and works really hard on her show. So encourage you guys to support her efforts and help her out. If you want to check her out on YouTube, you'd rather do that, you can do that by going to youtube.com, the spaces between. That's her site. And then following that, World Bigfoot Radio will be coming up. So lots of amazingly valuable entertainment left to go tonight. Now, there was a question brought up in chat prior, probably during the last segment anyway, but the question was, what are my feelings on precognitive dreams? Apparently some listeners of the show have been talking and saying that they're experiencing precognitive dreams. And I think that they're plenty valid. They can be plenty valid. The hard part is sometimes precognitive dreams are very specific. They come in the form of seeing an event that happens. Now, I've had precognitive experiences, and I think I just shared it on the last show, actually, oddly enough. But the one that pokes out in it, I've had others, but the one that pokes out in my mind the most is an incident where a lot of time my precognition comes in the form of a bad feeling, like I know something bad's coming. And the frustrating part is I don't know necessarily what, but I just know something bad's coming. And so I just, go on hyper alert. But one time I was working on patrol. I used to work in corrections in a facility in Minnesota. And I was on the patrol. And there was a lot of work going on, construction work going on within the facility. And it was a big rush to get it done. And people were working like at a cheetah's pace. They were really rushing to get it done, and there was trucks coming out, and not very often on my shift because I was in a later shift. But apparently, this is what happened. Usually, the construction was all settled down by the time I came on shift and was working because it was the evening into the late night, and so I was on my patrol rounds, doing my thing, and all of a sudden I'm driving by these buildings on campus they call it a campus, believe it or not, but these buildings. And I had this vision of a white truck just flying out between these two buildings. There was, separations between them. These are old brick buildings, block buildings, really. They're old historic buildings, beautiful buildings. But I just had this vision of this car coming out, or this big cargo van coming out. And I was pulling along at a good clip, 30 miles an hour or so. And I just had this feeling of it coming out. I was like, oh no. So I clicked slow down to like 15 miles an hour. And if I had maintained my pace, sure enough, the white van that I saw, or the white cargo van that I saw in my vision, came flying out. It would have T-boned me. Now, I don't know if it would have killed me or not, but it would have been miserable. It would have been a big mess. And I wouldn't have had any fun at all, I'm pretty sure. So that was precognition. Now, with dreams, the hard part is the only time you've had a precognitive dream is when whatever you dreamed happens. And, whatever that means. But I think they're very possible. I think that's sometimes we do get information through time. I really believe we do. I think that human beings are, by our very nature, multidimensional entities. And of course, one of the dimensions is the time dimension. And I think we can get information that way. That helps us out to avoid problems and stuff, or to avoid pitfalls in our path or in our journey. It'll depend on the person how much information they get, because it requires an openness. I think it's very possible. I fully believe in all of that stuff, and that people do experience it. I'm not specifically aware of what these precognition that people are experiencing, but I think it's always important to pay attention to our dreams, because dreams can be weird, though. They can sometimes be represented in the most weird figures and what am I trying to say? Actions and motions that don't really make sense. Like, I talked to one person, and he was like, man, I keep having this dream. And it's a good friend of mine. He's like, I don't know what's going on, man, but it's really freaking me out. I'm like, well, tell me what you've experienced. He goes, man, I keep having this dream, and I walk into a room, and it's me, but in the chair in front of me is another me that's all tied up. And someone's got a gun to his head and says, look what you've done. And then boom, blows the me in the chair away. And I'm like, oh. He goes, yeah, man, I'm really freaked out. I don't know if there's something evil coming or what. And I don't know, what came to me. And not like I'm a dream interpreter, and I'm not trying to sell or honk my own horn. But what came to me was that it was a figurative thing. And the him in the chair was an old him, an old habits of him, an old representation of things that he was or had been, that he had been transforming out of. And the blowing it away is just the removal of that. And so that his path was now cleared. And as soon as he heard that, he's like, that's it. That's exactly it. You're absolutely right. And it was good. I'm glad I could help him with that. But sometimes it's not what you see exactly, but it can be a figurative representation of some change or something like that. And it's tough to know which is which. That's the hard part with dreams. So you got to trust your intuition on it, but don't let that intuition be guided by fear, because people see negative imagery and automatically think, I'm under attack, evil spirits, they're after me, bad things are coming. And that's not always the case. Sometimes these are just visual representations that manifest in a way that we can understand them. And they might be brutal and harsh, but, these same people might watch, horror movies where people are dismembered, and that's entertaining. So, I don't know. Don't measure things through fear. You've got to measure it through trust and understanding, and meditate and reflect on what you're seeing and see how it applies. Generally, I think the universe is pretty gentle. I think our human experience is not, but I think the universe generally is. So, take that to mean whatever you will. I don't mean to tell you should believe or not believe anything. It's up to you, but those are my experiences and my thoughts on that. I hope that makes sense. That's all I got. So those are my reflections on precognitive dreams. Yes, I think they're real. I think people have them. I think the tough part can be in deciphering the symbolism to see what the precognition really means. But you only know it's precognition when it actually comes true or happens. So anyway, let's move on here. I've got more stuff for you. Well, okay, so here we go. The next one. Let's close this. That was a darn good article. I really liked that Skinwalker collection. God, that was good. That was really well done. There's some things that are really fun to read on the show. Everything paranormal is fun to read, but some things really poke through. It's like, wow, that was really good. That was definitely one of them. And I think the biggest reason is that for things like Skinwalkers, as I discussed when we first started talking about them on Wednesday night, for the most part, Skinwalker stories and experiences are very closely guarded because a lot of the First Nations will not talk about them because of the belief that by talking about them, you are, in essence, summoning them to you or making them aware of you. And the same holds true for demons. If you ever name a demon, it's largely believed that you're making the demon aware of you. So never name a demon. Because once you do, and it's kind of funny because it's kind of like Harry Potter, right? The cursed name of Voldemort. When and especially in the Deathly Hallows, once they said the name, it would summon people to them to come and attack them. And so it's very much the same in a lot of occult philosophy and religious philosophy as well. So, and the other funny thing is that in the case of demons, if you say the name, you're calling it to you. However, if a demon is a possessing spirit, by rites of exorcism, if you can make the demon name itself, its power is weakened. Isn't that interesting? That names are such a part of the ability or the power of a thing. I don't know. I think that's very interesting. There's something to take away from that. So, just saying, folks. A very sibilant S saying. Sorry about that. All right, so let's go on to the next one that we got tonight. This is another list, and I haven't read through this before, so. But this is coming from justforspooks.com as well. Again, go check out justforspooks.com. They're doing a great job over there. Lots of great information. But this is a list of 10 unexplainable things that have happened at home. And so, again, I haven't pre-screened these, but I assume I'm making a lot of assumptions that they're going to be unexplainable in the weird and possibly paranormal way. But if they're not, I guess we can move on to something else. But the article opens up by saying, have you ever been lying in bed and heard a bump or bang that seemed completely out of place? I have. Maybe you've seen a shadow as it skirts across your doorframe. When asked, many people have at least one story of strange goings-on in their house or other places that have spent the night. But are they supernatural or do they have an explanation? And this is, again, they're pulling stories from Reddit, according to the article here. So these people were asked, what's the strangest, most unexplained things that's happened in your home? Here are 10 terrifying answers. The first one, the person says, our house dates back to 1819. Wow. Our bedroom is in the top floor with a staircase leading directly from the door into the room. One night I woke up because I heard my husband open and close the bedroom door, then slowly sneak back up the stairs. I assumed he'd gotten up to use the bathroom on the floor below that was moving carefully to avoid waking me up. I turned around to tell him not to bother as I was awake anyway, and the noise stopped. Only my husband was lying next to me, soundly asleep. Yeah, it says TLDR, even ghosts need to use the bathroom on occasion. That could be. I don't know. But we're off to a good start, right? Number 2 on this list, not my house. My apartment in college, when I was a sophomore, I lived with a buddy of mine whose name was Chris. I never had many problems with the house, but my roommate and his girlfriend had stuff happen all the time. It started when we first moved in and Chris and his girlfriend wanted to paint Chris's bedroom. Once they finished painting the room, Chris took the paint roller and wrote on the wall, Chris rules. Same paint, but brighter than the wall because it was still wet. I was with him and his girlfriend when he did this, and we all went downstairs, grabbed more beer, and walked back upstairs. When we got back up there, the name had a line through it, and Gary was written above it. Oh, no. Oh, no, that's terrible. No one was in the house, and we all went in and out together. Not possible to be any of us. This started a long series of unexplained things. Showers turning on, doors opening, the strange floor creaking noises, as well as constantly hearing someone walk around on the floor above us. Townhome with 2 floors. Then things got really weird. I was in my room late one night, working on my homework, when I heard yelling in the other room. Chris's girlfriend had stayed the night. Chris always kept a lot of pillows on his bed because, I can't read that. It says women love pillows. Not really, but that's what I'm reading. And at night, he would put them at the foot of the bed. Well, this night, Chris woke up to a pillow being held on his head. He got it off his head and yells, "What the F?" in a terrified voice, which wakes up his girlfriend, who does one of those screams where you don't know what's going on, but you're freaked out scream. I run into the room and see them both sitting up in bed, at which point Chris starts yelling at her. "Why the hell would you do that?" Well, she has no idea what's going on because she was fast asleep. We were never able to explain how a pillow wound up on Chris's face, so we blamed Gary for everything that happened that year. Needless to say, we moved out after our lease was up. Number 3. One time my dad was coming home in the evening and saw a woman standing in the bathroom or bedroom window. Assuming it was my mom, he called out to her when he got into the house, but he didn't get an answer. But that wasn't really strange. He proceeded to the kitchen counter and played the messages on the answering machine. One of the messages was from Mom saying she was going to be home late, much later than him. When he checked the bedroom, all the window blinds were pulled down and nobody was around. I don't believe in ghosts, and neither does he, but he's become a little bit less skeptical since that night. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that'll kind of make you start believing. And maybe that's part of the reason. I don't know. I just think I love that about the paranormal, is that these things happen and they really do make you question your paradigm. You know, the rigid paradigm. And I love when the skeptics have the things happen the most, because God, they will vigorously defend their paradigm. They will vigorously attack anything that threatens the way they know the world is. But sometimes you just can't defend it. It's just the way it goes. Wow. Excuse me. Sorry about the raspy throat. Number 4, not my house, but somewhere. I was sleeping. Hopefully you'll forgive the length and the fact that I took liberties with the OP's question. We were traveling from Western Kentucky to Florida for vacation. After a long day of driving, we ate waffles and other breakfast miscellanies at one of those all-night breakfast places. And we were looking for somewhere to sleep for the night, but everyone was full. When we finally saw a hotel lacking a lit-up no vacancy sign, it was a Days Inn in Dothan, Alabama. I needed to stretch my legs, and my game gear had died, so I went to the front office with my dad to get the room. The woman, tired and barely contained by her hotel employee's uniform, told us we were all booked up. But her coworker said something like, what about 229? And she paused for a second, looked at me, then at my dad and said, well, yeah, I guess you could take 229 if you'd like 229. Well, yeah, why not? Sure. And so began the strangest night I've ever experienced. There's so much that those people did not tell that poor family. You could take 229 if you want 229. It's like, how the hell is anybody going to know that that's not a good choice? Okay, if it's open, that's the one I want. Not mentioning the fact that it's horribly haunted or something, right? We settled in our bed almost instantly. My brother and I in one, and my parents in the other, and something seemed off about the room. But we were too tired to care. At around 2:30 in the morning, I woke up to my mom screaming and my dad sitting straight up in bed. There's a man in the room. Hey, who are you? What are you doing in here? We all woke up, and there was this dark figure of a large man in the room standing over my parents' bed. My brother dove for the light switch, and the room came into this sudden, quiet focus. I remember thinking later about what might be a more appropriate or effective thing to say when you're encountered by a large dark figure standing at the foot of your bed. But at the moment, nothing was there, just a terrible TV, a mini fridge, and a mirror. We all sat there for a moment trying to figure out what had just happened. My dad said, well, we're leaving. And we were back on the road as fast as we fell asleep. Later on, my parents discussed it. Mom apparently only saw a man. My father also saw a man and a dog. And I just remember seeing shapes. We scoured the internet to see if anything weird had happened in that hotel that year. I even tried calling the hotel years later, but it had since gone under new management. From time to time, we always wonder what happened in that room. Well, here's the thing with hotels. It's very common that sooner or later a hotel is going to experience a death. Somebody's just not going to make it. Maybe it's a real vigorous night of partying going on, or it's just that was the time. But every hotel has a place where they take the mattresses that were where people slept their last night. And, hotels are one of those spaces that are very commonly haunted because sometimes people pass, they don't know they're passed, or maybe they do, and maybe they're angry about it, maybe, any number of things. But it's anywhere people collect. There's a strong possibility of there being some kind of impressions or hauntings or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. It's just the nature of the game, I guess, folks. Number 5 of this list, at my old house, we had 2 desks in the study on opposite walls. So I'd be sat at the computer with my back to the other desk that had a TV on it. If I was sat in there for a while, there'd be a noise that sounded exactly like someone tapping on the TV screen, like a fingernail on glass. If I ignored it, it'd keep happening. If I acknowledged it, it would stop and it never felt spooky or creepy. It never happened when anyone else was in the room, or if I worked on the desk, only when I had my back to it. Someone just wants some acknowledgement. And I think that's common in hauntings too, that sometimes they just want to be acknowledged. They just want to know that they're there. All right, number 6. I feel really crazy writing this. My parents insist. There's a ghost at their house named Jethro. Gotta go out to the cement pond. Sorry, Beverly Hillbillies. That's a really dated reference. I'm sure a lot of you are not going to understand. But anyway, we recently moved across the country and stayed with them for a bit and definitely noticed some odd incidents. Then we moved, and apparently the ghost followed us. It lives in my son's room. His things get moved around at night. He's confined to a crib. He often talks to whatever is in there. Doors get open that weren't previously in the room. And I don't believe in ghosts, but I can't really explain what is happening. How do you make that statement? I don't believe in ghosts, but my son's talking to somebody. My parents said it was Jethro. Things get moved, doors open and close, but I don't believe in ghosts. What the hell do you believe? What the hell do you believe is happening there then? It's like, I don't believe in ghosts. Okay. What do you got? Magic doors? What's going on? How does that work exactly? I don't know. Again, it always baffles me when those words come up. I don't believe in ghosts, but some of the greatest ghost stories I've ever heard start out with, I don't believe in ghosts at all, but, and then this fantastic series of events. And then you get through this and but I don't believe in ghosts. How can you acknowledge that all this stuff happened and you're still at, I don't believe in ghosts? How do you stay there? Because that's like a cognitive dissonance. That's like a breakdown of logic at that point. So what is doing the things that you observed if it's not a ghost? What left is there? Now, granted, ghost is kind of this caveat blanket term. It could be a lot of things that we would perceive as a spiritual entity, but I don't know, man. People are really vigorously defend their paradigms, man. Oof. I'll never understand that. Oh my God. I got to wait, folks. We're on number 7, but I'm going to have to finish it on the other side because we're about at the other break. Last break of the night. My God, where does the time go? I'm waiting for that music to come take us home. Take me home, country road. Oh, there it is. There's the bell, folks. All right, we'll be right back in just a couple minutes. Don't go away. Last break of the night. One more half hour to go. So I'll be waiting for you on the other side. All right, ladies and gentlemen, last half hour of our journey tonight into the paranormal portal. I hope you've enjoyed it so far. I mean, hopefully you're leaving here feeling absolutely and thoroughly entertained. And if you are, I'd just like to say, why not get subscribed if you're checking us out on YouTube and become part of the Paranormal Portal family of listeners and fans. And we'd love to have you around. It just really helps us out a bunch. We want to keep seeing this grow and grow, and we're always thrilled when new people decide to hit that red button on YouTube and subscribe. So please do so, and please help spread the word. One of the biggest ways you can help us is by taking the streams and sharing them out there to people you know that may be interested in the paranormal as well. So I hope that some of you will consider it, but the red subscribe button is your friend. Well, it's our friend, so give him a pet. Pet him like the dog he is. I don't even know if that made sense. That might actually be kind of gross, so never mind. Just hit the subscribe if you would, please. So anyway, I don't know what the hell I'm doing here, but we are at the last half hour of the journey, or 25 minutes, so we got a few more of these pieces to put into this last puzzle, and we will continue on. So let's get to it. Let's see. Yeah, okay, so we're at number 7, so we just have 3 to go. These go pretty quick. Not a lot of meat on these bones here, but they're quick little stories and very cool little windows into people's experience. Again, take them for what they are, but these are very, very possibly, or very, very well might be, some incredible glimpses into what lies beyond the veil of this world. All right, let's see what number 7 has to say. I was awoken from a nightmare. Oops, there it is. And we're reading from justforspooks.com, unexplainable things happening at home. I was awoken from a nightmare about a presence in my kitchen. Tried to shake the feeling, so I just went to get a glass of water. Of course, I felt like this thing was still in the kitchen, but I didn't want to show fear, so I got a glass of water and drank it. And I then placed the empty glass in the sink, feeling like this thing was hanging right over the sink. In brave contempt, I turned my back to leave the kitchen, and that's when it happened. Something hit me in the back. I looked in the ground, and I looked in the ground, and the sink sponge was lying on the floor right behind me. I defiantly placed it back in the sink and ran like a little girl. Yeah, you can only macho up a little bit before even the strongest of constitutions fade. And that's the thing. That's the part that's tough. Now, some people say, oh, this is actually kind of a very cautionary thing that I hear people say. Ghosts can't hurt you. They can't hurt you. I don't think that that's true. No, I say that because, many, many, many people have been scratched or hurt. And maybe that's not ghosts. Maybe it's something else. But the idea is that the spirit world can't hurt you. And that really couldn't be further from the truth, in my opinion. I think they can hurt you. I just don't think they choose to. Much like anybody you could encounter on the street or in the grocery store or wherever you happen to be could kill you. They could. I mean, anybody has that capacity. They could punch you right in your head. And they have that ability. But most people just don't. They wouldn't do that. They don't want to harm you. And I think that same is true for these spirit entities, whether they were human, whether they weren't, or whatever, that they just choose not to. But they may choose to do it to a point, or just to make a point. They can move things. I've seen things move myself. I've experienced that. I've talked to many people who've been choked, slammed. They've been terrorized, thrown by some unseen force. And people that I've known my whole life have told me these stories, as well as many people listening to the show. And I have no doubt that what they're saying is true, that what they're saying is accurate and factual. So I think that statements like the spirits can't hurt you. I think in some respects, maybe it's good, because if you believe that, then perhaps you're more protected. Maybe your aura is stronger because you have a confidence that they can't hurt you. And that in and of itself is a good thing. Or if you have a spiritual ideology that suggests you are protected, that's a good thing, because that as well strengthens your aura. Then possibly your aura is strengthened by some divine force that is acting on your behalf. But I think it's dangerous to say something can't happen. But maybe, take it or leave it, but just my 2 cents. In this case, in this story, it could have threw the cup, but it didn't. It threw a sponge. So maybe not a horribly evil presence, but maybe just presence like, well, you're not respecting me at all. Well, here you go. Here's a sponge. So take it or leave it. Just, again, my 2 cents. Number 8's real short. Says, everyone in my family, with the exception of my father, has had a dream about a UFO landing in a field behind our house. My occurrence of the dream has always stuck in my mind because it was so lucid. Plus the fact that at the end of, I seemed to have no control over my decisions as me and my sisters entered the craft. So, you have to wonder, and this is me just inserting myself into this, but if everybody's having the same dream, is it a dream? Or is there some abduction scenario playing out in this family? And it could be, and again, we were just talking about dreams. They can be incredibly symbolic, and they sometimes can be incredibly literal. It's just hard to know which. In this case, I don't know. If everybody's having the same dream and not able to control themselves and they're walking into a craft, that sounds a lot like an abduction situation. I had a listener call one time, or either call or email. I think emailed me. And they said, wow, I had this incredible dream last night. Was what happened. Went on to detail all of this stuff about being abducted and being absolutely awake, feeling pain, feeling discomfort, feeling cold, feeling hot, all these sensations, and I was like, are you sure that was a dream? Are you sure? Could it have been something else? And they're like, oh, maybe. And so I don't know. I do believe the abduction situations happen. I think for some reason people seem to experience that, and maybe they are specifically chosen for that for some reason, genetically or a family line or whatever, because a lot of times abductions do follow genetic lines. Generations of families will be abducted, and it's almost like a long-term study of some sort, but it's very strange. Anyway, keep spiderwebbing off, sorry. Number 9 on this list is my grandparents bought an old piano from a supposedly old haunted boys' school. Well, since they've had this piano, they hear weird things in their big house at night. Doors open and close as if wind passed, but there is no wind. The same raven sits outside their bedroom window, and every week on a regular basis crashes into the back window. The weirdest was when they awoke to the piano had moved. Not enough, not much, but enough to notice. Well, they got rid of the piano after 5 months. All these weird things stopped immediately. That's a great point. We've many times talked on the show what can lead to a haunting. And a lot of people believe there has to be a long history, some terrible, sordid events that happened in the house in order to introduce a haunting. And, quite honestly, that's not necessarily the case at all. And I've said many times, as it's come up many times, and there was even a TV show having to do with this, but it was called The Haunted Collector, and it was John Zaffis, who was the nephew of Ed and Lorraine Warren, had this television show where he would go into troublesome hauntings and find objects that had some sort of attachment on them, remove them, and people were noticing after they were removed that all that activity had ceased, or in many cases. Now, it's a TV show, so you got to take it for what it is, but it is possible that items have attachments, or at least have an energy. And by virtue of having an energy, can that energy become sentient of itself? For instance, if a child has a favorite toy, like maybe Robert the doll or whatever is a great example of that, or whatever, does the doll then take on a life of its own? because of all the energy it was given. Oftentimes we talk about tulpas, things that are formed by thought and energy. Well, maybe we can create a sentience in objects by that same process. Maybe we can create items that have an awareness or a consciousness of their own by virtue of giving them the energy to do so. I think that we create. We are profound beings of incredible ability, and we do create. We create our life. We create our experience. We create, our journey on a very profound level. So I think, in some cases, items can be imbued with an energy, and maybe that energy could turn out to haunt somebody else's house if they get your items. So food for thought. But number 10, and the last on this list, is a little longer. But it says, our house is pretty old. It was formerly a pig slaughterhouse. Oh my God. Speaking of imprints, folks, I don't think you ever take a pig slaughterhouse and you make condos out of it or something. You just don't do that. Just start over. When we renovated it back, we found 6 doors, no windows aside from the ones we have. It's a small 1-floor house with an unfinished basement. I've grown up in the house and I've had my share of weird stuff happening, but typically your normal ghostly business, items misplaced, strange noises, voices, doors opening, etc. Our basement was never the creepy part, though. It was the hallway leading to my bedroom. I hate that hallway. It's a straight shot. It says 10 feet. I think it's 10, but 10 feet deep from the kitchen. And I suppose nothing to bat an eye at, but I've always been terrified of it. I was probably 12 or 13, still in middle school at the time. I had a desktop computer that was always on. I spent hours on it constantly. I was up until 4 on it, and I got up at 7 for school. Well, one night I noticed I kept hearing weird noises in my hallway, like stomping. I guess, but not loud. My door handle jiggled a bit, but nothing too creepy for me. Anyway, I assumed it was my dad or something, and after a while, I had to pee, so I got up and opened the door. There was silence. Okay, cool, whatever. I flipped on the hall light and went to the bathroom. After I was done, I opened the door and looked into the kitchen. Our kitchen is really small, with an island table in the middle of it, and behind that, I saw a figure there, and I thought maybe it was my mom crouched down picking something up, so without thinking, I call out to her. No answer. Now I'm a little on edge, and I say, "Mom," again, a little louder. The figure shifted and came into the light of our security light shining through the window. It wasn't my mom. It was a figure on all 4s. His elbows were bent backwards, and his legs looked backwards too. He didn't have hands, but feet. He didn't have a face that I remember. I just see it as a blur in my mind's eye. I was terrified, but I was stuck. I couldn't move. He moved towards me slowly, and suddenly there was this noise to my left. Before I could turn to look at it, I was pushed back into the bathroom, and the door slammed shut. Instantly, I heard my parents' door open, and I jumped out of the bathroom. Every single light was on in our house, including the basement and the garage. I've never been able to explain it. I've tried to pull it off as too much caffeine, not enough sleep. Could a power surge have turned the lights on? But the flashlights were on too. That was the strange part. My dad, a huge skeptic, refuses to talk about it and blames it on me as a prank. Another weird happening was just a month ago. I was home from college and I had just gone to bed. I instantly heard some weird noises and I muted my TV, and suddenly my door slammed as something had lunged against it. Well, I didn't go outside at all that night, nor did I sleep. In the morning, I found a huge scratch on it. We do have a dog, but I give you my word that scratch was not there before that night. Our dog knows better than to do that. She's never jumped on a door before. It says P-I-C. Oh, there's a pic. Okay. Let me see if it works. Oh, yeah, there's the scratches right there. It looks like 4, though. Oftentimes, and this is, you can take it or leave it, and I don't know that there's a real basis for this not, but some people say when you see 3 scratches, whether it's on a person or on an item, that is demonic because it's mocking the Trinity. And I don't think so. I mean, for all we know, they just have 3 fingers. We don't know. These non-human entities don't have to have 5 fingers. They could have 3. They could have 2. They could have 1 that they do 3 times. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But you'll hear that all the time on Ghost Adventures. There were 3 scratches on the door where it was mocking the Trinity, which proves it was a demonic thing. And it's like, yeah, I don't know, Zach. I'm not so sure. But interestingly enough, there was one little thing that came up that I thought was kind of cool. And this is not really paranormal, but it's interesting. And this is by far the longest germination I've ever heard of. Now this story is very interesting. I don't think we've covered it on the show before, but this is an article that's from ancientorigins.net. I don't know much about this site, but I found this story to be incredible because they may very well have reintroduced an ancient species of date palm back into the ancient world over there in Judea. It's the Judean date palm, extinct tree resurrected from ancient seeds. I thought this was absolutely amazing. So let's just go over this quick and we'll talk a little bit about it. It's not really paranormal, but I just love when we can recover something that was lost to time. I think that's very powerful. And it says, oh God, let me blow it up. It says, for thousands of years, the date palm was a staple crop in the kingdom of Judea, and it was a source of food, shelter, medicine, and shade. But the plant went extinct due to waves of conquest and intentional destruction. But now, after 2,000 years, the Judean date palm is back, and the sweet ancient fruit has been harvested once again. Thick forest of the ancient date palms towering up to 80 feet and spreading for 7 miles covered the Jordan River Valley from the Sea of Galilee in the north to the shores of the Dead Sea in the south. So valued was the tree that it became recognized as a symbol of good fortune in Judea. It is chronicled in the Bible, Quran, and ancient literature for its diverse powers. It has allegedly served as both an aphrodisiac and a contraceptive, as a cure for a wide range of health issues, including cancer, malaria, and toothache. However, its value was also the source of its demise and eventual extinction. The tree so defined the local economy that it became a prime resource for the invading Roman army to destroy. Once the Roman Empire took control of the kingdom in 70 AD, the date palms were destroyed in an attempt to cripple the Jewish economy. The Romans eventually succeeded, and by 500 AD, the once plentiful date palm had almost completely disappeared, driven to extinction for the sake of conquest. It says, during the Byzantine and Arab periods, 4th to 11th century AD, the Judea date palms were barely holding on, and the continued waves of conquest and destruction meant that by the 19th century, no traces of these historic plantoons remained, according to a study conducted about the trees in 2020. And it's resurrecting Methuselah. But all was not lost, because in 1963, the late archaeologist Yigay Yadin began excavating Masada, a mountaintop fortress built over 2,000 years ago on the shores of the Dead Sea, where King Herod built a spectacular palace. Masada was the last stand of a small band of Jewish rebels who held out against the Roman legions for several years before committing mass suicide in 73 AD. That's me. Buried beneath the rubble, Yadin unearthed a small stockpile of seeds stowed in a clay jar dating back 2,000 years. For the next 4 decades, the ancient seeds were kept in a drawer at Tel Aviv's Bar Ilan University. But then, in 2005, botanical researcher Elaine Solowell decided to plant one and see what, if anything, would sprout. I assumed the food in the seed would be no good after all that time. How could it be? Said Solowell, and she was soon proven wrong. After 8 weeks, a small green shoot emerged from one seed, producing a sapling no one had seen in centuries, and becoming the oldest known tree seed to germinate. The plant was nicknamed Methuselah, after the long-lived person in the Bible. The first leaves were plagued with white spots, which researchers put down to insufficient nutrients, and it was thought the plant would never survive, but as time progressed, the leaves began to look healthier. In 2011, the plant produced its first flowers, and today, the living archaeological treasure continues to grow and thrive. As soon as the ancient Judean date palm had grown into a tree, Ms. Solowell used genetic testing on it to confirm that it was indeed male and thus capable of producing fruit. Methuselah is, and for a long time researchers believed, that this was the only Judean date palm that they would ever see. But Dr. Sarah Salon of the Hadassah Hospital in Jerusalem began to look for more Judean date palm seeds, and 30 of the ancient seeds were recovered from Qumran, the same location where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found in the desert. Between 2011 and 2014, Ms. Solowell planted the seeds, and 6 more have sprouted over the years. Like Methuselah, they have all been given biblical names. These plants are called Adam, Jonah, Uriel, Boaz, Judith, and Hannah. That's really cool. The age of the seeds range from some of the oldest germinated seeds in the world, Methuselah, Hannah, and Adam, with the carbon dates to the 1st to 4th centuries BC. To the mid-2nd century BC to 1st century AD, plants known as Judith and Boaz, the youngest of the Judean date palms. Uriel and Jonah are the youngest, 1st to 2nd centuries AD. Wow. It goes on and on. But the point is that how cool is that? 2,000 years, folks. These seeds are still germinating, and I didn't even think that was possible. I didn't even think there was a possibility that could happen because, God, you get garden seeds now, and it's like if you don't use them that year, you just throw them. Well, they're old. They won't germinate. Well, these seeds, these are some very determined seeds, and I just thought that was beautiful because something was recovered that was lost. Again, just like seeing extinct species recovering again, that just, to me, it just gives me hope. I just think that that's a beautiful thing. So, I don't know, take it or leave it, but, the other side of it is that maybe some research will be done on these plants because it was already believed to have healing properties. Maybe they will find some healing benefits of these plants that hasn't been available to us for thousands of years. That might help some people that are suffering and whatever have you, or just the aphrodisiac thing. That's kind of cool too. So anyway, I don't know, just a feel-good story. I hope that makes you feel good too. I think it's absolutely phenomenal. I love that. Now, the other example that I heard, and I thought this was amazing, was some seeds of an ancient squash species in the Americas that were uncovered from an excavation of a Native American site. And these were I think they were possibly 600-year-old seeds. And they were planted, and they've germinated, and they've recovered this ancient squash that was believed to have gone extinct. And I thought, God, that is so cool. And I thought that was amazing. But now we're talking from 600 years to 2,000 years, seeds that are still germinating. That is amazing. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I think that stuff is phenomenal. But ladies and gentlemen, that's going to about wrap it up for us here on the portal. Make sure to stick around and check out Paisley Wild on the Spaces Between next, coming up on TFR, iHeart, TuneIn, and TalkStream Live. And you can head over to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/The Spaces Between, and watch it live if you choose. But then later on, World Bigfoot Radio comes up, so still lots more to go here And I hope you've enjoyed the journey through the portal. I'll be back tomorrow night with Don right here. We'll get into it and see what the hell we can do. By the way, Nessie, if you're out there listening, the package did arrive today. So I'm going to take a look at it. I didn't have time because I literally came home, had to get ready for the show, and here I am. So I did see that it came today. So anyway, love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day. And remember to laugh as much as you can. Love y'all. Love, love, love. And I'll see you tomorrow night.